Love.
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 Care.
Love. Love.
Sex.
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 Damnation!
Dance.
Dhamaka.
Danger!
Darkness.
दिमाग खराब है
Tishkow. Tishkow.
Daru.
Desperados.
Destruction.
This is the LSDcast, India's first podcast about love, sex, and dating.
Hello, listeners, and it's us, the duo, Prem and Rogue, returning to you guys. How is everyone doing? And how are you doing, Rogue? What's going on?
All good here. It's, a pretty day in Mumbai, Bombay. And life is all right. Yeah.
It's the weather is definitely changing here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, you guys don't really get a winter, though.
It does. It gets as cold.
Neither do we.
I know. It's definitely way colder than Bombay. It's similar to New Delhi. So when it gets really cold, it goes to say 4 degrees, 3 degrees. It gets really cold at night. But it's not like the East Coast where it starts snowing.
Mm-hmm.
But right now it's gorgeous, beautiful. All the trees are changing color, and it's
Fall is so nice. Yeah.
yes, the fall is amazing.
That's late. November? It's kind of late.
Well, everything is delayed because of global warming.
Yeah, I blame George Bush. I visited last year. I visited the US last year. And I remember it being like perfect weather, perfect. And I almost thought like, wow, I could totally live here. It's so beautiful because those first few days of fall are so gorgeous.
Oh, gorgeous, absolutely.
Blue skies, crisp breeze, beautiful colors, warm sunshine. But then you have to remind yourself that it's not going to stay this way. It's going to be blizzards and snowfall and disgusting, cold, yucky, awful weather.
Well, that's why I stay on the West Coast, because it is beautiful all year long.
That's why I stay in
Sometimes.
Bombay. Bombay wins. Okay. All right, let's get on with the show.
Yeah, so we have quite a lot to discuss today, from being indecisive and, put in a friend zone category to basically,
Or not.
or being in an outdated word called frigid, or rather in the new age term being asexual. So there's a lot going on in this episode. So stick around because we're going to be right back.
That's right.
Hi, this is Michael Burns from Tall Tales Takeaway, India's first storytelling podcast where we feature true stories by people just like you. Find us anywhere where podcasts are found.
Alrighty.
So, Rogue, I had a question to ask you. Have you ever been with someone where you think it's going a certain way and then you're like, I think we'd just be friends?
Oh, yeah. All the time.
Or you do that to someone, or it has happened to you?
Well, I'm more cautious, so I won't give anybody the vibe of it being more than what it is, and then dialing it back. Usually, I'm just more cautious. More friend zone will go into a relationship than vice versa. Like, I don't invite them to hang out with my buddies and stuff unless they're friend zoned. This was a lesson that good friend gave me when I was still quite young, and I took it to heart. Like, don't invite people to group things because you're friend zoning them then right away. That was what he said.
Yeah, good advice. So that comes to our first question. So why don't we just jump in to our dating section?
Yeah, it's the dating section. Dating.
Love.
Love.
and danger.
All right, so our first question comes to us from Gunjan. Gunjan says she was recently set up with this guy by a friend, and she met him for a coffee. And in that date that she was at with him, he talked about having crushes on 3 different girls. He talked about his ex-crushes, he talked about his ex-girlfriend, then he talked about his current crush, and that he constantly has crushes on people.
Oh my God, that's ridiculous.
So Gunjan listened And she was like, okay, this guy is clear, like his head is not in this game, his head is in another game, so that's fine. So she was like, that's cool. So she thought he was a nice guy. She invited him to do some group things with some other people, like she was going to see a concert, so she invited him along with a bunch of other people. And now he keeps trying to like deflect those things and ask her out on one-on-one dates where he wants to take her out. And she's really confused because she clearly doesn't like him that way. She'd friend-zoned him in her head the first time they met. And because she thought he'd friend-zoned her, and now she can't look at him another way. What the fuck is going on with him? That's what she writes. Gunjan. Let's get Prem to answer, since Prem is the boy. Maybe he knows what's going on in this guy's mind.
Okay, so firstly, that is such a huge no-no. Like, where the fuck did this guy even like? Shouldn't he be listening to LSD? Like, this is dating 101. Like, you don't do that when you go on a date. This is absolutely infuriating to even
I know.
hear Gunjan say that. Like, Gunjan, you need to dump his ass and never pick his phone up and tell him to go get a life. If you ask me, that would be my answer. I know it's a little harsh, but if you are with a guy on a date, which is what it clearly was supposed to be, then he should have had the courtesy to have all his attention on her,
Right.
and not ramble on some bullshit about his ex-lovers or ex-crushes or some shit like that. And now
Absolutely.
what does he think he's trying to play? Like, what does he think? What is his game?
But that's what we're asking you, Prem, as a boy. So do you think like maybe he was nervous or something? Then so he kept talking about random shit? Like,
Exactly, but I'm so shocked.
why would a boy do that? Obviously, he doesn't listen to LSD.
Well, if he's nervous and he lacks that kind of general etiquette confidence, then that's again a red flag. You don't want to be with a dumbass wimp who's gonna do some stupid shit under pressure. You don't want to be with someone like that. So if you ask me, I know Rogue. I know that you're gonna probably say that, maybe you should give him a second chance, because what if he was nervous and you intimidated him? But I really think that if he acted like a douchebag, which he did on date number 1, I think it's gonna be a streak, and I don't think Gunjan should stay around for me to say, I told you so.
Okay, fine. Fine. And you are right. That is what I was going to say, but not to such a degree. I think it's really douchey of a guy to bring up his ex or his crush and not apologize for it. Like, if he has any self-awareness, he'll be like, shit, I shouldn't have said all that stuff. And not just gone on blithely about other women. So that clearly to me would indicate that you've been friend-zoned before you could even friend-zone somebody. So what is he up to then? Maybe he decided he likes you. The more time he spends with you in that friend zone, he wants to change it into pyar. What dosti ab pyar mein badal gaye.
I would still say that that ship has sailed. And okay, so why doesn't Gunjan do this? Why doesn't she call him on his shit and say, hey, by the way, what was up with your whole conversation about your previous crushes? And you clearly indicated that you want to be just friends. So now, well, let's just be friends. Let her call him out on his bluff.
Yeah, but I don't see a situation like that coming up very easily unless he actually like asks her specifically on a date. When is she going to say this to him? Gunjan, I think you should just hang out with him in groups and just ignore this, and it will just deflect it. If he keeps asking you out, just be like, look, I can't, I'm sorry, but my friends and I are going to this film on Thursday, why don't you come along? At some point, he will either become comfortable with that or he will drop out. Just consistently say no to going out with him one-on-one, unless you really, really, really want to give it a shot or want to give him some amount of hope. That's what I would do.
Well, I would stick to my guns. Gunjan, you can decide what is best for you. I would say dump his ass, move on, ignore him. Even, you can just call him, as in you can just be blatantly, I wouldn't say rude, but you can be blatant and just say, buddy, don't waste your time. And that's if you don't want anything more than just being friends. So it's totally up to you. Whatever you decide, I am with you on this, Gunjan.
Okay, excellent. You have our support. And now we need to give our beautiful advice to other listeners who've asked for it. We're going to come back with our sex question right after this little break.
See you then.
Find the LSDcast online on Twitter and Facebook and on iTunes and the Google Play Store.
And we're back. And as always, we've got a titillating, scintillating, sexitating question for you. It's the sex segment of the LSDcast. You heard it here first.
Sex.
Sex?
Sex?
Sex.
And so, Prem, I'm going to let you take this question because I don't think I can read it out. I don't think I can handle it because I think I will just implode, explode, and like really have a hard time with this one. So it's all yours.
All right. So, Rogue, here we go. So, Gotham writes in, this is what he says. He says that he's been dating this girl, and he says that he's convinced that his girlfriend is frigid because she clearly does not enjoy sex, and he's pretty much like tried everything. And he spoke to some of his friends who told him that this is quite a common phenomenon about women being frigid. So he is asking us, what should he do and how should he fix this problem?
Oh, I'm so glad he asked us, and I have so much to say to him about fixing
I have a feeling you do.
situations. All right, Prem, you take the stage for now.
Okay, so firstly, Gotham, just a quick sex ed. This is 2016, buddy. Nobody uses the word frigid. Even my grandmother would never use the word frigid because she was a modern day woman. And she was a doctor. She was a gynecologist, mind you. And so the right term to use is asexual. And also, buddy, you also have to keep it in consideration when you say so broadly that she's frigid and she doesn't enjoy sex. Have you asked yourself that is it in general that she doesn't enjoy sex, or is it just with you? I bet you didn't think about that, Mr. Gotham. Something to ponder over.
Right, and your friends as well. Okay, so Prem, you came out a lot harsher than I expected you to. I thought that was going to be my role. I can't believe I'm going to have to play good cop. What the fuck, man?
Sorry, honey. Sometimes it's just contagious, Rogue. This is all because of you.
Great.
But hey, you listen. This is what we do. We call it as it is, and this is what I feel. So there you go.
Yeah, but this is true. Okay, so here's a little history lesson, Gotham. The word frigid originated back in the Stone Ages, actually the 70s, when people didn't understand sex or orgasm, and sexologists assumed that women did not, seriously, women were not in charge of their pleasure. If they were really sluts and whores. And in India, we see that a lot still. But at that point, women were really conditioned to be the cockroach lay. Men were in charge of their pleasure. If you look at books, movies from that era, like women didn't really own their sexuality, and orgasm was supposed to originate only in the vagina.
Right on.
Nobody talked about the clitoris, and nobody touched it. So, and women who did were like really sluts. So the term frigid actually meant somebody who didn't orgasm through vaginal sex, which would be pretty much all women. Very, very few women have orgasms through vaginal penetration. You usually need clitoral stimulation. We've discussed this before. So now if you change the definition, obviously all these women are not frigid anymore. If they can have an orgasm, they're not frigid. And frigidity now is not used. You use the word asexual if somebody's not interested in sex, or hyposexual if they're not interested very much in sex or have a low libido. There's also stuff that you can think about, like whether it's psychological or if there's drugs involved, you know.
Absolutely, yes.
It's not always because she's incapable of having sex. There are people who don't.
Yeah, and Gotham, stop being such a chauvinistic asshole. You gotta dig a little deeper than just make these random, ridiculous, redundant statements.
Well, you know, it's easier to assume the problem is with somebody else than to assume responsibility and think that it's because of you, right? So that's very human.
Mm-hmm.
Gotham, we're not trying to really like say that you haven't tried or that you're really a sexist asshole. You might be, but you might also have discussed this. But really, you're going about it the wrong way. If you've decided that she's frigid, and that's just a stupid thing to say, you're not going to get very far, right? So if you want to understand what's going on, whether it's about you two together or her, you're going to have to get to the bottom of this by conversation or other exploration. When you say you've tried everything, we don't know what you mean because you're using words like frigid. So what does that mean? You like turned her over and continued to thrust without trying to get her to orgasm? Like what, right? So you have to really expand your mind here. Do some research. Read about asexuality. Read about hyposexuality, and figure it out. If she just doesn't have a high libido, she's not alone. There are Morrissey is a singer who says that he doesn't want to have sex with anybody. He's bisexual when he's sexual, but he really prefers to be asexual. And a lot of people have support now. There are fora for asexual people. There are groups of support and stuff because it's not that uncommon. Just like animals, we have a whole spectrum of sexuality from cis people, heteronormative, homosexual, bisexual, asexual. So you have to sort of approach this with a little bit of an open mind.
So it's the way I would say it is like it's almost similar to a guy who can't get it up. It's probably would be very frustrating to be in a situation like that, and I think it would be similar feelings for a woman to be in a situation like that.
I'm sure, because there's a lot of pressure to conform. Like if you can't have an orgasm, most women take it really personally. They think they're failing at something.
It is true. See, Gautam, look at that. You get pearls of wisdom from my sister dear and all you listeners out there. So Gautam, this is what I would do. This is what I would suggest you to do is do some research, read up on asexuality. And, Rogue was right. Maybe it's psychological. Maybe she's, on some kind of medication. There's a lot of medication out there, simple stuff too, that can diminish libido. So just be mindful of these things and don't only think from your point of view, buddy. You need to think about from her side as well.
And also pay attention to whether this is it's always been like this since you got together, or if it's become like this now. I mean, you haven't given us information, but I don't know if you're processing all this. So look for this. Is it general? Is it localized? Is it long term? Is it sudden? Has it been happening slowly? Has something else changed? Sleep, diet, headaches, medicine, triggers. 50% of women in India are sexually abused as kids. Could it be something is triggering that she just feels like she doesn't want to have sex, so she doesn't feel safe? Is something happening between the two of you? Financial problems. Could be so many things. The most sexual organ in your body is the brain. So pay attention to that first, I would say.
There you go. So, Gautam, considering that you've written to us, I'm sure you genuinely want to do something about this, and you should. So, I would just suggest that you dig a little deeper, scrutinize a bit more, and come up with some solutions instead of just pointing out at the obvious.
That's right. And there's always professional help. We're happy to recommend a psychologist to you, especially if you're in Bombay. So, hang in there, don't give up, and try to figure this one out.
Yeah, and write to us. Let us know how it goes. And everything turns out beautiful. Then you can write to us. You have an email and say thank you to Rogue and me.
Yeah, and if you think we were unnecessarily harsh on you, you can tell us that too. Okay, we're going on a break now. Ciao.
So you already know you have to like us. No, love us. Show us your love by also sending questions and comments. Do you disagree with something we said? We want to hear from you. Go on, don't be shy.
So, I don't know if you've been on any dating sites recently, but the word of the year is sapiosexual.
Yes.
It means someone who's turned on
by the brain.
By intellect.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So, have you ever been with somebody who defines themselves in a some sexual, sapiosexual, bisexual, asexual, And so somebody who's asexual could like go out with somebody who's sapiosexual, and then they would never need to have sex. They'd just have to talk.
True, but I think the sapiosexual, like you said, is like a trendy, cool thing to say. Like, oh, look at me, I'm so cool. But I think that most women in general are sapiosexual. Like, if you can intellectually stimulate them, then the chances of you getting into bed with them and actually arousing them way more is higher than.
I would say you're probably right, but I see sapiosexual in a lot of men's profiles as well.
They're just, if you're talking about the Tinder and all that bullshit dating apps, then it's all just for effect. Trust me.
Oh, really?
They probably don't even know what it means. They're like, this is a cool word.
Oh, come on, I'm sure they've looked it up.
I'm going to use it because it doesn't make me look like a horny dog.
There we go. Insights from the boy.
But as far as asexual, I just remembered a very close friend of mine. This is back in the day in India. He was dating this girl, gorgeous. I think she modeled or something, and she had flown into India. I think she was somewhere from abroad. Anyway, so he got with her, and they started like kind of seeing each other, sussing the scene out, and she would come over to his house very often, and she would many times say that, oh my God, I love sweets, I love chocolate. I would have chocolate over sex. And my buddy told me that when she would say that to him, he would laugh it off, but she actually meant it literally, because he tried pretty much everything that would arouse any person, any woman, but it did not. So he was devastated. He was shocked, because there's someone so gorgeous, so beautiful, and just unresponsive. But at that time, I wish I could have given him a little more advice, because he just, moved on from there very quickly without even figuring out or digging deeper as to what it could have been.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of people who, of course, make a living trying to sort this stuff out and see if there's a psychological underpinning to it. But honestly, I think there's also some brain chemistry. Maybe it's not something you can solve or fix, just like homosexuality. You can't cure it. If you are that way, then you are that way. And hey, chocolate is a great substitute for many things in life. I advocate chocolate therapy for any occasion.
Nah, not sex though. No ways.
Sex has its own place.
No ways.
Yeah, well, the chocolate, the darker the better. Always good.
The only time I would prefer chocolate over sex is after I've had sex.
You're not choosing it over sex at all, are you? You're having your chocolate and eating it too.
Yeah, it's like, should I go for a round 2 or should I have chocolate? Okay, I'll have chocolate first.
First.
Yeah.
Yeah, clearly there's no contest for you. Good enough. Chalo, let's get out of here. You guys, I'm sure you've got things to do as well. And we will catch you in a week if we're not taking a break for Thanksgiving.
So have a wonderful Thanksgiving, just in case we miss you.
Yeah, and if you're in India and you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. Just eat some chocolate.
There you go. Well said.
You've been listening to the LSDcast, where it's all about love, sex, and desi dating. With your hosts, Prem and Ro.
A Sonologue production.